Hello! Welcome to The Healing Artist. I'm your host, Frida, and friends, today we are joined by Natasha Joy Price, and they are a energy therapist, Reiki Master, past life regressionist, author, and host of Balm to the Soul. Her work centers on helping people understand and clear their energy fields in a grounded, practical way so that they can support their emotional, physical, and spiritual well being. Natasha, welcome to The Healing Artist. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's really lovely to meet you.
I am so into doing past life work.
Good.
So I'm one of those ladies that during the summer, and I think this started maybe 6 years ago, I just hang out by bodies of water, like by the lake, camping, or by the pool,
Mm,
chilling out and doing past life regressions on myself.
Lovely. Yeah. Do you know, I had a flash of one. I've investigated so many, but
Yeah.
I had a flash of one the other day, which is really needs investigating more. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I don't know what brought it up. Um, but it was literally, I knew that I was hiding in like huge drains and I could just see the sun filtering through. So I could see the shape and of the pipe, but otherwise it was like sort of dark. And I was a bit like, oh, what on earth? One, what triggered it? And I can't remember what I was doing, something very mundane. I was just pottering around the house or garden. So I thought, you know, there is always something coming up. That
Yes.
I have done so much work around past lives, but there's always it's like you scrape off the froth off a drink and then room for something else to bubble up. And then you keep doing that and it's just layers and layers and layers. So I've got a bit of investigation myself to do now.
That's an exciting one too. How did you begin doing this? When did this all start for you?
So it started, I went to learn hypnosis. I
Mm-hmm.
did basic hypnosis training. And at the end of the training, the teacher said, we're all going to put all the names in a hat. And then whichever names pulled out, we're going to demonstrate past life regression session. And the instant he said that, I knew it was going to be my name. And it
Uh,
was.
uh-huh.
And so I had my first past life regression session in front of an audience, which was a little anxious, little nervous. I was very anxious anyway. I had very common fears that I know now are quite common in people that, I was frightened about what I'd see. I was frightened I might get stuck somewhere
Yeah.
or get lost somewhere. Completely irrational fears, but very common. So I was highly nervous. But even with all of that, the imagery I saw was so clear, just
Mm.
incredibly clear. I saw characters from my life now. I saw my sister, my cousin. They were in the dream, but in different relationships. I came to a very violent end. And then he took me past the death point and I met my guide. And my guide didn't step forward in human form. He stepped forward in like this sphere of water droplets. I'm sure they weren't water, but they looked like water droplets in a sphere, just suspended. And every time he spoke, they shimmered and I was just mesmerized. This is my first experience of
Yes, it's
this.
beautiful.
I know. And I was just like, goodness. And I was talking to somebody about it afterwards, and I said to them, it looks like a dandelion head. And hence, that's what my
Wow.
business became called, Dandelion Therapies, from that experience. But from that experience, I knew that I hadn't made it up or, you
Hmm.
know, there's a lot of sort of moot point about whether they are real memories or your subconscious makes up a story to help you understand a lesson. And
Hmm.
at that point, it didn't really matter to me which they were because it had been so vivid. And seeing my guide like that was just so fascinating. I'd never seen anything like that before. Um, and I just, after that, I went and trained at the same academy that the teacher had trained at, because I
Mm.
just thought I just felt such a pull towards it, and I just thought this is so fascinating, and without it being a bit cheesy, it does change your life. It
Yeah.
does completely.
Yeah.
Your whole perspective on life, what you find out, because you do so many past life regressions as the client as well as practicing as the therapist. So I did a 2-year course. So it's a lot, and but you learn a huge amount about yourself, and you begin to understand things about what we're doing here,
Yeah.
and the path that we've all had through time and space, basically
Yeah.
incarnating into different bodies. So that's how I got started, basically.
Has it given you less of a fear of passing on?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. In fact, I don't think I have a fear about passing on at all.
I feel the
um
same way from the work that I've done.
yeah,
It's just sort of like, it's like, oh, we're just here temporarily, and then it's just a
yeah,
body, and we go to do something
yeah.
else.
And
Hmm.
it's literally like walking through a door,
Mm.
and you're on a different dimension, or whatever you want to call it, but you're in a different space. um
When you go through the experience of because this might be curious for people to hear, when you're in the throes of how a life changes, the transition point, so a death,
mm,
could you walk us through what people experience that you've noticed, or what you yourself have experienced? Like, there's nothing to be afraid of in that moment. You're sort of just like walking through the experience, but could you share that? So,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, just to give you definitions, obviously what we're talking about is reincarnation.
Yes.
The past life regression is the hypnotic technique to access those memories. And then I do the past life regression therapy. So what we do is we look at the thoughts and emotions that we passed over with, that we might still be holding on to, that are affecting our current life.
Yes.
So so when I take people to the death point, obviously we do that with no pain, or you're not reliving the experience. You're simply an observer, if you like. So we can look down at our body and see where we were just before our heart stops beating. At that point, we can say to people, "What are your thoughts at this moment? What are you regretting something?
Mm.
Are you feeling relief? Or do you
Mhm.
just want to go now?" Sort
Mhm.
of, whatever it is that they may be thinking and also feeling. What are the emotions?
Mhm.
That sort of thing. And then, so we go through the death point, and it is literally people. And what I've experienced, there's no pain, or in fact, there's no fear either at that point. I've never experienced fear in being a client in a past life regression. You literally just
Yeah.
float away, basically, and you can turn over and look down, if you like, and see your body. And just, we always check that all the energy's gone,
Interesting.
um, and then you go into a healing space, whatever you want that to be. Um, and for me, it's often just a white space. It's just it's not like a beach or a meadow, but it could be. But if that's what people, but for me, it's just a white space that I go to.
Hmm. Is there a common thread that you've experienced with all the different regressions that you've shared with people or walked people through? Is there something that keeps coming back?
For me, I have had a real thread through time of being a healer. And
Interesting.
I also lump into that psychic abilities as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
So I've had many lives where I've done that work,
Yes.
um, and maybe been persecuted because of it, because it
Yes.
wasn't in line with what people believed at that time,
Yeah.
or went against religion at that time, that sort of thing. When I do for other people, no, because every session is so different and so um, personal, and also we set the intention at the beginning of the session, so they might be working on something. So we're not randomly going into lives, because if you just do that, you get information, but it is random. So it doesn't really make much sense. So you have to really focus your intention for that session and then just follow the energy. And
Interesting.
really what we're doing, we are doing that. We're following the energy, and we are the facilitator for the client,
Yes.
you know.
And what are some of the things that people would come to you for that they're experiencing in this life and they're like, "Hey, could we look into this because it doesn't make a ton of sense or it's extra charge."
Yeah. Yeah. So people across the board, so people can come to me for physical issues. So they've got a recurring problem. They might have had a diagnosis for it, but it's, in traditional medicine. And I often encourage people to do that anyway,
Mhm.
to, I would never disrespect that. That's a whole part of our healing whole, isn't it?
Yes.
Um, but they might have just not felt that there was any change in symptoms, or they might have an inkling themselves and just feel that there's something else going on here, sort of thing. But it can be a physical issue, and we often find that there are emotions sitting behind that, or there's when we ask to go to the root of that problem, we find a story, a dialogue that explains why that has occurred in that area of their body, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It may also be emotional. They might feel terrified of something. So terrified of water
Yes.
for no reason that they have experienced in this lifetime, or a fear of anything really without any sort of explanation from their current life. We work on. I've had ladies come because they can't get pregnant and they have fertility
I
issues.
bet that's actually pretty common, that one, because
Yeah,
a lot of stuff hangs out in the womb space.
yeah,
Huh?
absolutely. And often a lot of fear
Yeah.
because of an experience that they've had,
Hmm.
you know, because obviously, when we think about the history, our medicine, our like midwifery and all of that has improved so much. So there's a lot of fear around that, like you say.
Yeah, I have terrible seasonal allergies, especially to like hay, like well, I guess what we would call hay fever or
Mm,
like that like ragweedy
mm,
type. So,
mm,
and I went to the center of it last year and just laid in the middle of it and closed my eyes and I was like, what is this about? Is there something about a past life that I can and like walked myself back and back and like got to sort of had this understanding and knowing that I had given birth in a field in another life to a stillborn baby and then
mm.
had to just continue to get up and keep working because my circumstances were that that's just what you did,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
just, and went through this process, had this massive emotional release, all of this, and they got better.
Mm,
But this year, they're back. Now, they
mm.
aren't back to the same degree that they were before, but I was like, that's so interesting because they got better after that. And then we go through this, I go through this, and I'm like, okay, they got a little bit better. And now I'm being told by my guidance to go get some local honey and take a little bit of it every day. Of course, I haven't
Yeah,
walked down to the
yeah,
place and gotten the honey yet. But so, but it's a piece of it. It is
yeah.
better than it was. So it's a piece of the puzzle, like you were mentioning the holistic
Yeah.
approach.
And it might be that there's something that's unresolved from that lifetime, but it
Yeah.
might be that there's another lifetime sitting underneath it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
Right.
often you can have threads of emotion. So you can be dealing with grief from
Yeah.
all different angles, or you can, in that lifetime, I talked about my first experience where I died quite a violent death. I was so angry. I had
Yeah.
such anger from that lifetime. So, there can be other things hiding underneath, if you like. If
Yeah.
you can have a session but not quite clear at all, and then people will say there's still something, there's still some, and then something else got we've got to clear another layer, if you like, from that.
And how do you view time? Because we say past life regression, but I have this sense also that the time isn't linear.
No, the time is not linear at all. And in fact, you know that because you can have overlapping past lives. So, I've seen a couple of lives in World War II. Well, that doesn't work. How does that work? Um, but it's because it's different timelines as well. But no, time is not linear. We make up linear time to help us understand
Yeah.
how things work. But to me, it's like a massive cobweb, basically. And so we can go to any point on that cobweb, any intersection, whether that be past, present, future. And then, of course, you can have intergalactic regression. You can go to the first time you incarnated on Earth, but you can go to the first time you ever incarnated. There's so much you can ask to see
Yeah.
if you want to. So yeah, not linear, definitely not linear. No.
I imagine the past life regression can really help people also that feel like they don't belong here. So, like, sometimes people I feel like
Yeah.
are more outer planetary than they are Earth beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've experienced that with just a period of feeling incredibly homesick, but I was at home. And it's very disconcerting. It's like, what's going on? I
Yeah.
just, you know, when I hit 50, I had um, thoughts in my head about that I shouldn't be here anymore. And when I
Mhm.
say that, I don't mean that I was suicidal. I wasn't, but they were almost like light thoughts in a way. I can't explain that. They were just went through my head. And I came to understand that if I hadn't have done so much work on myself, that was an option that I had chosen at that point in time. So then from that point, because I didn't choose that option and because I had worked on myself, they then I sort of had to choose another option that was, and so I was sort of put in a holding space for a while. It just was sort of not sure what we're doing with her yet sort of scenario. But I felt incredibly homesick and sort of what am I doing here now? What am I and just really not connected. It was
Mhm.
a very strange. It was only a few months, but it did feel very strange.
When you were going through that, did you understand it, or is it in retrospect that this makes sense to you?
No, I knew I was able to piece together enough information to understand what was happening.
So how did you
Um,
ride that wave? How did you move through those several months?
I went back to basics. I always say to people, if you're really just struggling a little bit and you don't really understand what the imagery you're getting or the intuition, or lots of people are psychic in a way. They would never call themselves psychic, but they get all this information. Go back to basics. Go back to basics. So it's about grounding yourself every day. It's about cleaning your energy field every day. Um, I also recommend getting an energy buddy, somebody who's on the same wavelength as you, so you can, WhatsApp them or whatever and say, "I feel really strange today. Can you check in on for me?" And you've got that. Or go and see somebody and just have a Reiki and get lots of sleep, drink water, look after yourself.
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes we go through those periods of time where it does feel a bit strange, for whatever reason, whether you are changing course somewhere along the line or, it's to do with the astrology but we've all felt it, I think, to
I,
some extent.
I'm in one of those right now. I appreciate the basics reminder. Oh my God.
Yes, back
In
to
America,
basics.
It is crazy in America right now. And
Yes,
every day it's
yeah,
just like, oh my God, just get grounded. I know the light wins.
yeah, yeah. And I have to remind people of that, you know. But that's one of my passions anyway, about cleaning and clearing your energy field every day.
Yeah.
That's what we should be doing. It's part of our overall holistic health. And I
Hmm.
really believe our energy, our energetic selves, we're missed off the list. So when people do get poorly or whatever, and they go to a doctor, which obviously I say do that, you know, they will ask you about your diet and your stress levels and your exercise, but nobody says what's going on in your energy field.
Hmm.
You know, what's happening there. Um, so that's really what I constantly go on about. You need to check in on your energy field every day.
Yeah. And
Mm.
switching gears a little bit, tell me about your podcast.
Balm to the Soul. Love doing my podcast. Who doesn't love talking to people who are passionate about their subjects and what they do? But it's all about energy healing and spirituality. So
Yeah.
I have lots of healers on, lots of coaches, guides, channelers, mediums, authors, all sorts of people. And I love doing it. I've had it for about 6 months, 6 years now, not 6 months, 6 years. And I think there's about 170 free episodes now for people to listen to. But I view it like ripples going out.
Mhm.
Ripples. So, you know, introducing people to the idea of energy healing, what it's about, you know, all the different options. There's so many out there now. But that it is part of our overall holistic health, and it's something that we need to look at um, and be aware of, really.
I feel like the consciousness is rising in such a way that even more and more people are now waking up to realizing that, oh, what is
Mm.
this hidden thing in energy that we can't physically see, but we're beginning to be able to feel more and more and more. And
Yes,
more people are waking up to that idea.
absolutely. I think I think people have been aware for quite a while that there's something missing,
Yeah.
which is why a lot of people don't heal, and you know, there's a lot of issues with physical illnesses. Um, so I think people are looking for alternatives,
Yeah.
um, which is lovely. We need to be curious. We need to be pushing the boundaries all the time. You know, we don't use our we don't use our consciousness and our psychic skills enough, really. And we've all got them. So
Yeah, I believe that everybody can be tapped into the multisensory world. It's just about getting a little
yeah.
bit more quiet. Where do you put your attention? And then
Mm.
practice.
Yes, yes, yes. And making the what doesn't feel natural eventually will feel natural,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I check in on my energy every day. I do theta healing on myself every day, and it's just become part of my routine, and it's so natural. And now I think I'm not sure that I can stop. I'm
Yeah,
not
it is
sure
the way of
that
your life. Can you
yeah,
I just missed the word that you said. It's new to me. You said theta healing or
theta healing. Yeah, theta healing. So
I don't know it. Theta
it's
healing.
a it's a healing modality where basically the practitioner. So if you came to me, I'd be the practitioner, and I go into a theta brainwave state. So you slow your brainwave state down, um, and then I would remove negative emotions from your energy while in that theta state. It's a very unusual it's unusual in that it's part energy healing and part quite psychic work. There's a real um there's a real sort of link there, so, you know, mix there. But very, very interesting modality, and I love doing it on myself.
Very
Um,
cool.
yeah.
How would I investigate more about that? I'm very
Well,
curious.
the lady who devised it is called Vianna Steibel, and
Okay.
she is American. And there's loads and I've done the basic and advanced, but there's loads and loads of different modules, if you like, that you can do around it. But it's fascinating, and they teach you how to go into theta brainwave
Hmm.
state. So I did all the training, loved it. But then I started to think, well, how do I know that what I'm doing is me going into theta brainwave state? Or how? So I started questioning it just because that's that's who I am, and I just needed to understand. And about that time, I was asked to go and be a guinea pig for a PhD student who was studying meditation. So I went along, and you get wired up with all the wires and the jelly. And he was looking at brainwave states, and they showed them on the computer screen. And I thought, oh, now's my chance. So he's talking to me about what's going to happen. I thought, oh, I'll just go into theta and see if what I'm doing is actually theta healing, theta brainwave state. And he literally stopped talking and looked at me, and he said, "You've already gone into theta. What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, have I? Have I?
You're like, I'm
Oh, I
just
didn't mean
checking
to."
it
So that was a massive affirmation for me. That was brilliant.
That's cool. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
I had the wonderful pleasure of being able to go to like a it was about music and sound and healing, and it was delivered by a neuroscientist, and they did that with the caps, and then we listened to
Mm,
different kinds of music, and one of the people in the group was wired up, and we got to watch their brain flicker and change with
yeah,
the music that was being played and the different
yeah.
pieces of so fun, so cool.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Marcus was doing this PhD, but we went into a very deep meditation. So your brainwave state slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, and then suddenly get very quick. And I think that's gamma.
Hmm.
And that is when in meditation you start receiving information.
Yeah.
So it's like you it's almost like you go over a level somehow, and then the brain goes mad in a way. The brain waves are picking up all this information. It's so fascinating. And when we can actually see it, one, we understand it a little better, and two, we believe it,
I
don't
know.
we?
Why do we have to see things to believe it?
Yes,
I
I
swear.
know. People need to be able to see or feel or before they will believe it.
I think we're all
But
trained
yes.
on movies. I don't have pictures in my mind the way that it is in a movie. And
No.
for the longest time, of course, I'm getting all of these intuitive guidance and all of this, and I'm feeling it, and I just know things and all of that. And like for the longest time, I was like, but it doesn't look like the movies. And I wanted to.
Well, do you know what? When clients come to me, I say to them, it's not like the movies. You are not going to see a big screen
Hmm.
and they're not going to give you the information like that. I mean, maybe the occasional one is like that, but the majority, you do not get that.
Yeah.
But what you do get is a fascinating mix of, I'm very visual, so I will get a lot of visuals, but you will get hearing as well. And then maybe you say to a client, "Are you married in that lifetime?" And they just know. So you have a knowing, and then you can sense things as well. And it's like you take all these threads and you weave them into a picture.
Yeah.
So it takes time. Unfortunately, it's not just given.
Right. Yes. Something fun is how in the regressions I've done, past life regressions I've done, it's how ordinary they are.
Yeah, we call that porridge lives. Ordinary lives over and over and over again. But there is something that soul is learning. There
Oh,
is
yes.
something, and
Hmm.
maybe it's patience, and maybe they just want to experience ordinary human life
Hmm.
and what that's all about.
Yeah.
But there's always a reason.
Hmm.
We're taught that the majority of people have very ordinary porridge lives, and that you would never meet anybody famous. You would never have somebody who is a famous character. I've had one person in 11 years that we believe was a famous character. So that wasn't quite true, but it is very
Hmm.
unusual. Um, but lots of times, in different battles, or I had one past life regression where I went in where I had been in a fighter plane
Mm,
and I'd crashed.
mm,
So that's where I went into the regression. So that was a really interesting one.
hmm.
Um, yeah, lots of very interesting ancient ones where you're in an ancient tribe and
Yeah.
their beliefs and
Yes.
sacrificing and all the rest of it. That's very interesting as well.
Yes.
It's all interesting, but some can be pretty porridge.
I had one of my favorites. I was obsessed with Pompeii when I was a kiddo.
Oh,
Obsessed
okay.
with it.
Yeah.
And I had a past life regression that I was doing with actually it was like a group of us were doing them together and was walked back to a time I was a baker and I was a man and I was making bread and there was a festival. It was a day of the festival. And it was either like Pompeii or Herculaneum and then, you know, Mount Vesuvius erupted. Like, but it the, and the
Mm.
but I didn't. But it wasn't horrible lava flow. It was just there wasn't any oxygen anymore, and it was just falling asleep. So
Yeah.
it was like not some sort of like horrible, intense, insane thing. It was just we were here and then we weren't.
Yeah. And often that's why they come up because people do have a fascination. They have some remembrance at some level. Or, lots of stories of people go on holiday somewhere and just know where they're going and can
Yes.
find their way to various places, and something will trigger that remembrance in some way,
Yeah. Tell
which is
me,
interesting.
tell me about the book that you recently wrote.
So, the book I wrote last year is called The Red Magus. So, magi were like priestesses,
Mhm.
midwives, they doctors of their tribe. They treated people. They were there for everything. But it's my first novel, so I wanted to sort of weave my interest into a story that anybody could read, whether you believe this or not, whether you're interested or not. This was like a drama, if you like, a thriller. So it's set in modern day, and in first century Petra in Jordan.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So Cassie, the lead character, is just had a baby, feeling a bit lost, and she goes for a past life regression, and she goes through a series of them. But as soon as she goes, she begins to think that something bad is about to happen in her current life because of what she sees in the sessions. And then she meets this character, the Red Magus, and although Magus is the male name, it is a woman, and I am aware of that. There's a reason why I called her the Magus, but anyway, and Cassie meets this character, and she begins to think that she's trying to warn her about what's going to come about in her current life.
Fun.
So
And where can we get
yeah,
this?
so it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
wonderful.
great fun. It was great fun to write.
And now, while this is your first novel, you have other books.
Yes, I have one other, Freedom of the Soul, which was written about 7 years ago now. And that is like a proactive workbook around energy management. So it's all sorts of concepts and ideas that I helped me along the way, exercises, meditations. And it was really written for teenagers to help them have other tools in life. When one of my daughters got to 17, they're all grown now, but when she got to 17, all of her friend groups had problems, self harming and quite serious issues. And it terrified me. I just thought, what is going on here? And one of them came to tea and she discovered that myself and my daughter were attuned to Reiki, and she was fascinated. She became really animated and wanted to ask questions. And that really gave me the idea just to give that sort of generation more tools,
Mhm.
through life, because life is difficult. It's a struggle sometimes. So if we can give them, that sort of age group, more tools in life, and an understanding of what's happening, then I think that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
that's where the first one came out, Freedom of the Soul.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for
Mm,
sharing.
thank you.
Oh, Natasha, this has just been such a fun chat. I've really
Yes.
enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, lovely. It's been really good to be here. Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off for the day?
No, apart from you can tell I'm very passionate about my past life regression, my future life progression, my soul continuum work. I get very passionate about it, and that's something that I always say to people: find your passion, because I
Yes.
think we all need a passion in life, don't we?
Yes.
It doesn't have
Well,
to earn you money. It just has to be,
yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's why a podcast is my
definitely.
passion.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a good one.
I love that. And Natasha, if folks wanted to get in touch with you and do a past life regression, how would they do that?
So they can contact me. They can contact me through the podcast, but they can also contact me through my website. So I'm www.dandeliontherapies.co.uk. I'm in the UK, so if they have a look for that, they can contact me that way as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. And we'll have all your information in the show notes as well.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Oh, Natasha, what a joy. A joy price? No.
Absolutely. See, that's why my parents called me Joy.
I wanted to tell you that I love you. God,
Thank
universe,
you.
source loves you. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you very much. You too.